A's of Oakland, of Vegas.
No, Vegas.
They're 18 and 16. They are 7-3 in their last 10. Now they have a minus 23 run differential, but we're not celebrating the negative. The A's, listen, for as much crap as we've given them the last couple of years, those young
Rightfully
players are
so.
right. Those young players are starting to come around.
When you look at the A's, you have to look at a couple of names. One of them obviously is Kyle Stowers, who that tower hit the grand slam walk off against the Marlins. Um, and
Other way
Jacob
around.
Wilson. Sorry,
Stowers hit the walk off for the Marlins.
that's what I meant. My bad. I was reading the wrong headline. Sorry. When you look at rookies like Jacob Wilson, you also got JJ Bleday, who's playing well. Jeffrey Springs throws 6 scoreless innings. You got guys who have not been around that are all young kids being given a chance, and they're producing. They're doing well. Is it going to last? I do not think so. I mean, nothing would be a better story if they're in the same position come playoff time. That'd be a Disney movie if I've ever seen it. Um, I just think Oakland is hot now, but once you start getting into summer, these young players are going to get tired, and you're going to see those dog days of summer start to eat into them.
But they're also getting to the point now where they are calling up some of the top prospects that they've got. So
Because they're getting ready to do their famous trades.
well, they're starting to build that foundation of a team that's starting to come, Dan.
You know, the A's are interesting because they're playing good baseball and it took him a long time. It took him to getting out of Oakland to do it. It took him to get into this stupid ass minor league park. It could just be a humbling experience for them.
Mm.
What if they're humbled by the fact that they have to play in such a small ass ballpark? Excuse my language. Um, and everyone like laughing at them, being like, "Oh, this is not major league quality. This is not what we see Major League Baseball like." So they're constantly being mocked and bullied, punched down by the rest of society, and they're like, "Okay, cool. You want to laugh at us? You want to, you want to continue to um, joke about us and you know crap on us? Continue doing it. Continue doing it. We have a young, brand spanking new team that we're building here." And when we get to Vegas, the big time, where there's going to be money flooding to us galore, man, you're gonna wish you're the A's. Now, look, this may fail, and maybe they get to Vegas and they absolutely flop. But right now, it's a humbling experience for Oakland or the A's. I'm sorry. They don't have a city name. I think it's stupid. Like, why not call them the Sacramento A's? Like, even the Hornets call themselves Oklahoma City when they had to move there
That's true.
for a short time. You know?
Yeah. I I like the humbling. I like that. I think that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is when Moneyball 2 comes out, departure from Oakland,
Departure from Oakland.
that's when we're really gonna see what's going down.
I'm curious to see what the owner does when he actually gets to Vegas and the team is actually good. Because I think this team is on its way. I don't think this is a fluky year for them.
No,
This
I
looks
don't
like a
either.
team that's building.
Listen, I think they've got enough bats to compete. The question was going to be the pitching, and the pitching hasn't been awful for them. If you look at their team ERAs, I get ESPN back up and running. In team ERA, they are at the middle of the pack. Let's see. They're sick. Oh, no, that's sixth from the bottom. So they're 24th in ERA, 4.49. But you know who's right in front of them? The Brewers. Brewers are pretty good. The Diamondbacks are pretty good. They're right in front of them, too. So, see what happens. But listen, the A's deserve a little bit of credit for how they've performed so far. So, I wanted to give them a little bit of love. The team on the flip side of that, who I don't want to give any love to, but I do want to acknowledge how bad they are, the Colorado Rockies are pretty bad. 6-27.
At least they won 6.
They didn't win consecutive games till earlier this week.
I mean, the Colorado Rockies are the bad news bears of Major League Baseball. You know, the Chris Bryant signing, I mean, it was cool to see when it happened, but we're not surprised where it has ended up. When you look at the offense on this team, you gotta, if I'm doing the math quick enough, your average is around 240 as a team. And the one name that stands out is Jordan Beck, is having probably the best start at batting 265. Colorado is just going out there and putting on a good show, just like the Marlins are doing. To me, in that effect, that two teams that make baseball bad need to start waking up for their fans. Not that they draw a ton anyway. No, Colorado does, but
that's such a nice park. And when you think of the history of the Rockies, we're talking Larry Walker, Hall of Famer. We're talking Todd Helton, Hall of Famer. We're talking, I know he's not there anymore, but Nolan Arenado, Charlie Blackmon in that epic beard, Mike Hampton, Pedro Estacio. There's nobody right now on this team that makes you say, okay, I see what you're doing. Listen, and I get it. You're going to play the Dodgers a bunch, the Padres a bunch. The Giants are pretty good. The Diamondbacks are good.
Excuse me.
This team is so bad. They've won 6 games in a month. I just, at this point, if you're the owner, why not just sell?
Well, that's what they want done. I mean, the fans constantly are yelling at them to sell the team. But no, just because your fans want you to sell the team doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Right. Just look at Mets fans with the Wilpons.
Exactly.
What's so frustrating about the Rockies, though, is that it's not like hey, like they've fallen on hard times and they're just trying to reinvent themselves. This has been happening a long time, too long. Like, how many more times are you going to continue to rebuild or retool? Like at some point, you got to put a winning product, and you can't just blame it on the fact that teams have more money than you. Because that's what it is. You know, why is it that they don't have a regional sports network? Because teams have more money than they do, right? So they have to go through MLB Advanced Media.
By the way, look at your own city for a second.
Yeah.
Playing Denver. The Denver Nuggets. What'd they do last night? They kicked the crap out of the Clippers in Game 7.
They sure did.
Oh yeah.
The Colorado Avalanche, listen, as tough as that loss was, one of the best teams in the NHL.
Yeah.
And they drafted and they developed, and then they would make smart trades.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get what the Rockies are trying to do.
Yeah, I don't get it either. It to me it sounds like a front office that doesn't care. It's like they get Chris Bryant, they sign into a deal, a long-term deal,
A long-term deal.
hasn't panned out, right?
Right.
And since then, rather than invest, and look, they had some good years, but rather than invest and continue to get better, they simply just flat out quit. And the fan base is tired of it. Like I'd be tired of it if I lived there and I had to watch that crap. Like why should I even want to go out to the ballpark?
And the other thing is, think of the amount of great players they had
Yeah.
who wound up having to leave. They trade Nolan Arenado for nothing,
Yeah.
and then kicked away $50 million with him to the Cardinals. Trevor Story, they let walk out the door. Troy Tulowitzki, although injuries hampered his career later on, but Tulo was the best shortstop of the game. Carlos Gonzalez. These guys were good. And you let them out the door because you didn't want to pay them or whatever it was. So, yeah, figure it out, Colorado.
But
Because to Dan's point,
what's the solution? Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike.
no. To your point, and this is to every small market team, you can't cry uncle because teams spend more money than you.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
And look, the one thing I will agree with the small market teams, there has to be salary cap.
Right. I will
But
give you that.
I'll give them that. But the Yankees don't want that. The Dodgers don't want that.
The Mets don't want it either.
The Braves don't even want it.
I'm happy you brought up the Braves. But here's the other thing. If you want a salary cap, which fine, you want it, show us you're willing to spend the money.
Yeah.
On more than one guy.
Yeah, and then that's the trouble with the A's. The A's had to sign a big contract to Severino because they weren't paying anybody.
Right, exactly. The A's had to sign Severino. You bring up the Braves. What are the Braves the best at? Buying out arbitration years and then getting those fancy deals. Ronald Acuna signed 8 for $100 million. Talking about top 5 player in the game when he's healthy, and that's his deal.
And you look at the deal that Ozzy Albies signed.
Right. And then flip side it. Well, Colorado, you're going to pay Chris Bryant for a long time. I mean, you have to figure stuff like this out. You can't just cry because the Dodgers spend a ton of money. Well, guess what? The Giants spend money. The Padres have spent money.
But I mean, those are not cheap checks. Yeah,
Padres aren't big market. They turned into it, but they weren't. So let's see what happens there with the Rockies. Okay. All right. So I am changing some things up. I want us to get a little bit more FI in here. FI being fan interactive. So this is what I have come up with for a game. Everyone loves fantasy sports. So what I've constructed, or what I'm thinking of constructing, is our own little fantasy game. But we're not going to go modern. We're going to go all time. And then to get fan interaction, we are going to put down each roster that we construct and put a pull out. And we'll go from there every week. So starting this week, this is what the top 5 list is going to be. So here's how it's going to work for this week, and then we'll go forward. We're going to create our own fantasy starting rotations. Caveat: if someone takes a player you wanted, you cannot retake that same player. They are off the board like in a regular fantasy draft. So we will go one by one. So
We said pitchers from all time, correct?
we will go all time.
All
I'm
time.
not going to give numbers and statistics. That's for people to look up themselves. So what I'm going to say is take whoever it is, then just give a brief explanation, and then we'll move on to the next person. So we can do a 5-man rotation, or if you want to do, because of injury, go to a 6th. That's up to you guys. I do have my notebook and pen ready to mark all this down to set up the poll for later. Dan, you know what? Dan, I'm going to give you first pick.
You give me first pick?
I'm going to give you first pick.
Okay.
Any pitcher all time.
Nolan Ryan.
Nolan Ryan. Now, you are just saying that because if Nolan Ryan added an S to his last name, you guys could be related.
Yep. We'll go with that.
Oh. All right, Mark.
Walter Johnson.
Good one.
Give me the big train, baby. One of the best pitchers to ever play the game and holds so many records that will never be beaten.
And you remember the dates when he pitched, right?
Yes, I was there.
Oh, man. All right. I'm going to go a little bit more modern. I'm going to go the big unit, Randy Johnson.
Okay.
That big lefty who had awesome hair throughout his career.
Yeah, except when he got to the Yankees, he had to cut that shit.
Oh, that's why he sucked for the Yankees, because they made him cut the hair.
God.
He was also great in Little Big League. So give
Yes.
Randy Johnson credit for that. All right. Dan, your second pick.
I see you're Randy Johnson, and I will raise you a Greg Maddux.
Oh,
Best pinpoint pitcher ever to play.
ever. You wanted a guy who could locate,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't throw hard.
And that's the thing. You know, it's how precise he was.
Yep.
It was tremendous.
That's why he was nicknamed the Professor.
Mm-hmm.
That and the nerdy glasses, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Yeah. Oh, God.
All right. Mark.
The year was 1986, and a young, thin man named Dwight Gooden took the mound for the New York Mets and just went electric. Dwight Gooden for number 2.
It's a good one. That's a very good one. Still kind of upset about Dan taking Craig Maddux.
Yeah, so was I, actually. I was like, well, there goes something.
You know what? I've got to go with another Mets legend. I love Pedro. Everything about Pedro Martinez
Yeah, Dan
was
doesn't like Pedro too
special.
much.
Hmm?
Dan doesn't like Pedro too much. He slammed his octogenarian down to the ground.
He did slam Mel Stottlemyre, but you know what? Pedro's a lovable guy. I'm going Pedro.
Yeah. Don Zimmer is the one that.
Don Zimmer.
Don Zimmer.
Yeah.
All right, Dan, we are back to you.
All right. Third pick. This is hard.
Very happy I came up with this.
Man, do I want to go a little more recent or do I want to stay with like best of all time? Because there's some obviously great, but then there's a lot of great pitchers here. Okay. I think I have my guy. Steve Carlton.
Very good pitcher for the Phillies. Definitely had a good definitely had a good career.
Steve Carlton was the reason why the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air had a guy named Carlton on.
He loved Tom Jones.
He did.
What was it? 4,100 strikeouts? Guy's a beast. He had like 41 something.
Jack for you before I throw it to Mark. Steve.
Dude was insane.
Yes.
Baseball reference. Steve Carlton. Great career numbers. 329 wins, 3.22 ERA. Strikeouts. 4,136.
A lot of strikeouts.
Damn.
And led the league 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times.
All around great pitcher.
He's unbelievable, dude.
By the way, when you look at some of these numbers for innings pitched, it's insane. He threw 346 in a third innings in 1972. It's unheard of today in a single season.
You never see that again.
You will never. You're right. 1,000%. You will never see something like that again. All right, Mark.
Well, I know I'm stealing this right off of Mike's list because if I don't pick it here, what type of Met fan am I? The greatest Mets pitcher to ever live, Tom Seaver. No words are needed after it. It says it itself by just the name.
Tommy, terrific.
The statue outside of Citi Field.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Says
I wanted one of you guys to take Tom Seaver. I didn't want to. I was thinking about stealing him. You know?
I'm surprised I didn't take him first.
Well, you had to pay homage to Walter Johnson.
Well, yes.
The man you saw pitch at least 13 times.
Oh, come on. It was at least 2 dozen.
I was trying to be nice to you. Oh. Listen, I know people don't like him for other reasons, but in big games, there's nobody else I'd want on the mound. Think of the bloody sock, Kurt Schilling.
That's a great pick, dude.
Yeah.
And he should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yes.
Politics aside, Kurt Schilling should be in the Baseball Hall of Fame.
And let's be real, that's why he's not in the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
And that's stupid. Like who cares? You know, Kurt Schilling, was a major factor into the history of baseball
Yeah.
when it came to the 90s, early 2000s. Like, you can't tell the history of baseball without telling the history of its pitching. And Kurt Schilling was there. So you come on now. This man has had world championships. He's been to a lot of World Series too. Um, Shame that this guy does not ring the bells over in Cooperstown.
And he should be. Help the Red Sox reverse the curse.
Yep.
Help the
Probably
co-World
his
Series
best,
MVP with the
probably
Diamondbacks.
his best performance as a pitcher.
Yeah.
In such a big time moment. It wasn't the game that officially helped reverse everything, but they were on the cusp all of a sudden, right?
Well, yeah. All right, Dan, your next pick.
Okay. Here I'm definitely going to go a little more modern. And by a little more modern, I mean like today. He's no longer the pitcher that he is because he's old and constantly gets hurt. But I'm going to go with big game pitcher, Mr. Justin Verlander.
Good pick. Nothing against him.
Yeah, the amount of just pure big games that he's been in, the playoffs. He's tremendous in the playoffs. He's not the best pitcher ever. And everyone,
But you know what he is? He's one of the best pitchers of his generation.
yes.
Which makes me think of the Who, My Generation, great track. Everyone go listen to it.
Yeah.
After you're done listening to this.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out the Who.
The Who.
All right. Mark Verlander off the board.
A lot of respect to Justin Verlander. He didn't have that great a time with the Mets, but a lot of respect for him. But for me, I'm also
don't have beef with Justin Verlander.
Going a little modern myself here with this, and coming out of the LA Dodgers, Clayton Kershaw led the MLB 4 different times in ERA. He will definitely be in Cooperstown. One of the best pitchers I got to watch over the last 30 years.
By the way, between Kershaw and Verlander, also two pitchers who've won MVP awards.
Yeah.
So there's that as well. To go with the third guy who could be listed with those two, or to go opposite of that. I don't have a real issue. You know what? I'm going to go a little bit more old school. Jim Palmer, brother of Arnold Palmer, who created the incredible drink.
Hey,
I was
don't
a
knock that
tremendous
iced tea
golfer.
lemonade. Do not knock that iced tea lemonade.
I'm not. I love a good Arnold Palmer. Are you kidding?
It's delicious.
I can't golf like Arnold Palmer, but I could definitely drink an Arnold Palmer. But Jim Palmer, part of those 70s Orioles teams with the orange uniforms.
Is revered down here. You have no idea.
Are you kidding? I would love to go down there and catch a game at Camden.
But you have no idea how many people, because remember that there were no nationals.
Yeah.
The Senators only existed for so many years that it's forgotten about essentially. So both Senators, both the incarnations of Senators. So the Orioles are massive where I am. It's crazy.
Yeah, they are. All right, then your fifth pick.
All right, fifth pick. Uh, yeah, this is a tough one because you got a lot of great pitchers.
Mm.
All right, all right. I'm gonna go Roger Clemens. It was either Clemens or Glavin. I went with Clemens.
You know what? Respect to Roger Clemens. I did think about him for a minute,
Yeah.
and I was like,
I
you know what?
didn't.
I went modern on the first three, so I
Yeah.
went a little old school. Roger Clemens should also be in the Baseball Hall of Fame. That's a
Yeah.
whole other.
Big E, you mean that man kept his ERA as low as possible. Obviously, it's hard, when people hit home runs off of you, and when you had the generation of hitters that we had in the 90s, like a pretty difficult time, but still managed to get 354 wins, and I mean,
7 Cy
Evan
Youngs.
Cy Young's, um, 46, 72 strikeouts. Like, he's a beast, man. Like, Roger Clemens, like, you knew you're gonna get a good start every 5 days with Roger Clemens.
ERA just slightly above 3.
Yeah.
He was a beast. All right, Mark.
So we're gonna go back to the 1960s, and there's nobody else I would want than Bullet Bob Gibson. Bob Gibson was one of the best pitchers who I never got to see play the game. I've only seen from records and from flashbacks at ESPN shows, and then of course, collecting him in trading cards. Bob Gibson was just a lights out pitcher during those times.
All right. My last one. One of my favorite actors all time is Adam Sandler. One of his best movies is Big Daddy.
Yeah.
Sandy Koufax.
Oh,
There's also the great line on Sandy Koufax from The Simpsons, Krusty the Clown, when he's walking his dog. Go on the star of Sandy Koufax. Wouldn't pitch on Yom Kippur when I bet the Dodgers. I did 5 shows that day. But Sandy Koufax, one of the best pitchers
ever to
and
gross
big game
amount.
pitchers ever for the Dodgers, his entire career. So what I will set up is we'll try to set up a poll on all of our social medias. I have the fans vote on who they feel has the best rotation here. And then next week, the winning person will pick the next position.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's how we'll go about it.
Sounds like fun.
All right. So we are building a dream fantasy roster. So again, we'll post to all socials, Facebook and Twitter. And
Posers Only Fans Club.
yeah, I don't want all the viewers to turn into Patchy though.
Mhm.
All right. Some series for the week. Dan, I'll start with you because the Yankees are at home and they will play the San Diego Padres in some interleague action.
This is gonna be a tough series. Um, I mean, the Yankees have had trouble beating the Orioles. Like I don't know. Like I don't trust it. I don't trust it for the Yankees. Um, I think hitting wise, they can certainly compete. Pitching wise, it's going to be very difficult. If it's not Max Fried on the bump, it's going to be really, really difficult.
Let's see those pitching matchups for you.
I know it's not.
On,
I don't think Fried's there because he just pitched.
I'm just looking just in case.
Okay.
On Monday, it will be Nick Pivetta and Carlos Rodon. How about the start Pivetta's off to? ERA under
Mm.
2.
Yeah.
Tuesday night, Clark Schmidt against former Yankee Michael King.
Michael King's gonna he's gonna kick our ass.
And then Wednesday night, for some reason, they're playing 3 night games in the Bronx, so that's a whole nother conversation. Will be Dylan Cease and Carlos Carrasco.
Okay.
Cease ERA. Cease is an ERA near 6. Damn. And then he was off to that bad of a start. All right. So we got Yankees, Padres. Mark, we got the Mets and the Diamondbacks in a rematch of what took place at Citi Field this past week.
It's going to be another good matchup, as the Diamondbacks are looking like the Diamondbacks from 2 years ago when they had that World Series run. Of course, me, I'm always going to favor the Mets because the Mets are my team, but this is not a team as they just faced, so we know what they can do. We know they can hit. Just don't take them lightly, and you just got to challenge them whenever you can.
And I believe they're going to miss Corbin Burns because I believe Burns, for the first time in his career, he's going to miss a start due to some shoulder inflammation.
Oh, wow. Okay. Good for me. Good for us.
Bad for my fantasy team. We got the Rangers and the Red Sox, 2 teams in the American League, and someone on here may have said that might be the ALCS. That guy's an idiot. Reds at the Braves. The Braves are starting to play much better ball.
So over the last couple of weeks, you have noticed an upturn, but it's the Reds. They are your roulette spin. They're either putting up 9 runs or they're putting up 2.
They are such an enigma of a team. It's so weird.
But they got so much talent on that team.
I don't. I got to be honest. I don't think there's a player in baseball more talented than Ellie De La Cruz.
I couldn't disagree with you.
You got the Astros and the Brew Crew. Brewers are starting to scuffle a little bit, but the Astros doing their thing. Giants, Cubs. How about the start the Cubbies are off to?
Especially in the late of innings, the way the Cubs seem to manufacture runs out of nowhere.
Yeah. Like they're like the kings of it in 2025.
The start Pete Crow Armstrong's off to. The start Kyle Tucker is off
Well,
to.
yeah, Tucker's off to a
By the way,
great start.
what an investment. What an investment.
Right. We all thought that was a very high amount to be giving, which is all proving us wrong. So
Well,
good for him.
I mean, the other thing is this dude's gonna be a free agent after the year. Like, if I'm the Cubs, pay him now.
Yeah.
Don't even let him hit the market.
Yep.
And the Giants are also off to a pretty good start. And then we paid respect earlier. We got the A's and the Mariners.
Both teams on a high right now. I would truly like to see the Athletics win this series and just have their name as close to the top as long as they can.
If they can get to the All-Star break within 5 games of the division, I am going to root for the A's the rest of the year.
That would be you're asking a lot. It's not impossible, improbable, but not impossible, especially the way they're playing. So, I mean, that would be your MLB feel good story of the year. Could you imagine at the All-Star break, the Oakland, whatever we want to call them, are any amount of games over 500? No one would have had that prediction.
No one's got that pegged. All right. That'll do it for this edition of the Batter Up Podcast, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood. Mark.
Well, Charlotte will be going and doing a record for the 101 because we received the card yesterday. That's just too pretty not to put up. That Paul Skeens rookie. So Charlotte will be going over the 101 hits that are on their way out to our cosigner, Top Notch Sports Club. And we will be filming this week in T-Ball with Troy today. And get Troy his little podcast. And then hopefully we're going to helicopter Mike in, and Mike and Patch are going to go live from T-Ball. That's our plan.
See what happens there. Check us out on the socials: Facebook, the Sports Insanity Network, Twitter, S Insanity Real. Remember to vote on the polls. We'll put them up probably tonight. And until next week, for Emperor Palpatine, I want to call Dan Lando, but I know the backlash that could have. Oh. But for Dan, Emperor Palpatine, I've been Luke Skywalker.
So
May the fourth be with all of you.
I'm going away for my 30th birthday. I'm gonna go visit my bro in St. Louis. And our theme is also like Star Wars type.
I had my 7th grade social studies teacher was it 7th grade? No, I'm sorry, 10th grade. Shout out Mr. Matlock. He accused me of being related to Chewbacca because I did not shave I would not shave my beard. All right, so everyone, have a great Sunday. Enjoy the beautiful weather. We'll talk to you all next week.